Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the movie Odd Thomas. This movie starred Anton Yelchin and he was from the newer Star Trek movies. He unfortunately passed away a few years back and his death was really tragic, but I really want to watch Odd Thomas for him and also because the plot of Odd Thomas seemed really interesting. So hard to film with dogs, oh my gosh. Hopefully my dog is done barking. This movie is about a young man who has supernatural abilities that lets him see dead people. His abilities help him solve murders as well with these like powers that he has, and it's more than just like seeing dead people, but I don't want to spoil it for all of you here. And he can also sometimes use his powers to prevent major tragedies from happening. This plotline sounded really interesting, and that was a major reason why I wanted to watch this film. This film was based off of a book series, and I've seen mixed reviews for the book series. Some people seem to speak really positively of it, saying that the Odd Thomas series is one of their favorites, while other people speak a little less positive of it, and some people even border on saying that it is problematic. So before I get into my thoughts on this movie, there are some other actors that I want to comment on who are in here. There's Willem Dafoe, and he was the Green Goblin from Spider-Man, and there is another actress from Loki. And now I wasn't a huge fan of the Loki series. It has its problems. I like Loki as a character, just not a huge fan of the series, but I did really like this gal, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'll have a picture of her somewhere around here. So now into my thoughts on this movie. So I wasn't expecting this movie to sort of be the mix of comedy and horror that it was. I don't know why I thought it would be more like supernatural, thrillery type thing, but it really was like horror with quirky elements to it, which is a unique movie type that I've never seen before, but I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it. There were things I liked about this movie style, but there were things that I didn't like about it. I thought that most of the cast unfortunately had very cheesy acting, and it was hard because I've been trying recently to separate the dialogue from what's happening to try and figure out, like, is it poor writing with the script or is it the actors not acting that great? And it was sort of hard to tell with this film. I'm bordering on it's a little bit not the greatest writing, but also the actors were really cheesy besides just the writing not being the greatest. So, you know, it is what it is. If you aren't okay with cheesy acting, if you can't overlook that, then definitely don't watch this film. I thought that the pacing in this film was pretty incredible. It was really good pacing. When movies are slow, I'm like checking my phone nonstop, trying to see what time it is and like, oh, is this almost done? But I didn't do that at all with this movie. I was completely absorbed because it was so fast-paced and interesting, and I was really on the edge of my seat a lot, and I couldn't predict what was happening as the mystery was unfolding because there was so many different plot twists, so many different layers with it, and you can't fully predict every element of the mystery until the absolute last scene. Like, you have all these predictions, you think you see how the movie is going, and then bam, another plot twist, and it's completely different than what you expected, which I thought was a very fun element to the story that I was really interested in. I thought that the absolute final plot twist was a little more predictable than the other plot twists, but I still loved it just the same. It was very depressing though. The plot twist made the movie even more depressing. I mean, it's a depressing film in general. I mean, you're dealing with this guy who is seeing dead people and solving murders, and there's like serial killers. Like, it's very depressing, but the ending made it even more depressing. It's not a happy ending, and considering the fact that this movie didn't get a sequel, you will get no happy ending for these characters. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for a happy ending, this is not the movie for you. Also, I could see the potential for more movies, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. I don't believe Odd Thomas did well in the box office, and it appeared to have a low budget, and also Anton, you know, is not alive anymore, and I don't feel like they would be able to make more movies by recasting him. Like, I feel like if they want to try this series again, they would have to do a completely new cast, completely new script, and everything like that, and remake the first movie, which I could see potential for that. I definitely think there is a lot of people who would be interested in that. I just think that they need to tweak some things, improve some things, get a different script writer, and I could definitely see the potential for that. There's one thing that is really frustrating about this movie that I have to talk about. So this movie was sexist. I've like debated whether to say it's bordering on sexist or just say flat out it's sexist, and I'm just gonna say flat out it's sexist because it frankly is, and I thought that was a little unfortunate. But hear me out why I'm saying that this is sexist, because I know there's a lot of people who probably would not say that it's sexist. So every single female in this movie was a damsel in distress. They all needed saving, and none of the females had any sort of like strength or power or like independence or anything. They were all relying on men to save them, which is a extremely sexist idea, and this movie is old, but not old enough that you can just say, oh, it's a product of its time. Like, no. This was a movie flat out being sexist. And then all the adult females in this movie were extremely over-sexualized. I mean, like, wearing really skimpy outfits for no reason that were completely inappropriate for the scenes that they were in. Luckily, the kids were not sexualized, but the adults were, and I was very frustrated with that, so that is why I believe this film was sexist. So, overall, I thought this film had good parts to it, but it was nothing that I'd recommend unless you're into thriller and horror type stuff with serial killers. Like, there is some supernatural stuff to it, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to fans of supernatural movies. I'd recommend it to fans of horror and thriller type movies, and I'd only recommend it if you're okay with cheesy acting. This movie I watched on Hulu, but it has now been taken off of Hulu. I was glad that I watched this movie, but it was one that left me feeling very sad and depressed, and I had to do a bunch of like just little positive mindless things after to sort of get my mind off of the movie. I think sometimes I should try and watch movies in the daytime, because when I get really sucked in and absorbed in a depressing movie, I get really depressed and it's hard to sleep, which, you know, it is what it is. Maybe I should just be smarter about what time of day I watch movies. So anyways, that was all my thoughts on the movie Odd Thomas. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. All of my other social media will be linked down in the description below. My next video will be uploaded next Tuesday, and I hope to see all of you there for that video. That will be a book-related video, and until next time, goodbye!